Dem.
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, heck of a night for the Dens. I thought it was a complete game, and I thought obviously, led. I think it was 2-2, and then we led tip to buzzer there versus a very good opponent. Have a lot of respect for Coach Hunter, and watched him for years, Georgia State and what they did there, and then now at Tulane. They do a good job with the zone. It's a matchup zone, and it can bring some confusion to you, and they do a good job of really adjusting different things that you try to do against it. And so you have to you get in a concept, and they figure it out, and you got to get to another concept. So, but I thought our guys did a really good job defending to start the game. The key for us in this game was our arrivals had to be elite, and they've been torching the nets from three. And they had a point guard that's done a great job of hitting threes himself, but also finding shooters off a ball screen D. And, we made the decision to play the ball screen 2-on-2 and make sure that we arrived at their shooters on catch. And, they had 28 points in the first half, and we still had 3 bad arrivals where that was 9 of their 28. But I thought for the most part, our defense did a really good job of trying to get to those shooters. We got driven a few times because of it, but I thought for the most part, following the numbers, we limited the threes. And, Alcorn State, they hit 1,000,000 threes, and we knew we had to do a good job there. And even late game, we tried to go to some switching there late. Again, trying to force twos, not give up threes. And I was also pleased with the ending. Even when you win games, you want to try to, they say there's winning and losing or wisdom and learning. And you want to have wisdom in your wins of like, hey, what's some things in the Jacksonville game we got to do better at? And we weren't clean in our press attack in the Jacksonville game. We were much cleaner there tonight. And then really our closing defense, to be able to get in the three-quarter court zone, shrink seconds and not let them score quick. We even got that. We weren't even really trying to turn them over, but we got that turnover there late and did a great job closing the game. P.J. Smith, 29 points, but it's more than that, guys. It's so much more than that. And I'm not going to get too fired up right now, but we all had to hear the nonsense that we didn't have a point guard. Okay, we got a point guard. Okay, we got a damn good point guard, and everybody saw it tonight, and everybody's been seeing it. And the kid's the toughest dude on the court, and he goes out there and he competes on both ends, and he does every single thing he can to win. And he's not only a point guard, he's going to be an all-league point guard, and he's going to play this game for a while. And to see what he did tonight, to close the game, to hit the big shots, right, when they had some momentum, bang, right, but to get us in things, right, to go out there and to ask him, hey, go score 29 and go guard the best player and hold him to 2, right, and for him to be able to do that, we're putting a lot on him, but he just goes out there, he's got his finger taped up, he's got a screw in his finger, and he just goes out there and he's a warrior, and got his 1,000-point tonight. And man, he's a den. He is everything we're about. He's about, and I'm so fortunate that he's leading this team because he's just people are playing off of him, right? Like his it's a little bit Alex Hunter like, you know what I mean? Like his presence, it permeates, and I think he's been big for us. Nick with the big 3, obviously to start the game out, but then he hit the huge one on Cali too. We were sputtering there for a little bit, and then Davis Molnar, right? That's the other one I want to obviously mention. His team just continues to sacrifice for one another, and for Garrett to be willing to come out of the game because Davis was rebounding the ball, and for him to go do that and to accept doing that, that's just what this team's been about, and that's why they're 4-0 right now.
I want to ask you about 2 plays, sort of. The first one, P.J. Smith, you kind of thought it was going to be P.J. Smith's night when he was guarded heavily near the paint and he got that shot to fall. I thought you cracked a bit of a smile, just because it was kind of like, how did that go in? But you probably wasn't by design, but he got it to fall. And then in the second half, he hits the 3, go down the other end. Davis Molnar makes a great deflection from behind. PJ hits the deck for the loose ball, draws a foul. I thought that kind of like, still a lot to play, but that was a little early nail in the coffin, I thought.
Yeah, I think, as I said the other night, the game honors toughness. Always has, always will, and he has a toughness about him where, if I had an expression, it was probably I thought we had a couple possessions tonight that were kind of empty, but then we scored. And, it was, when we went and had to, during the hurricane, when we had to go practice at Clemson, Brad and I were talking one night after practice, and he was like, man, you know what, like, your team has the ability to have bad possessions, and then you shoot it so well, bang, 3 on the board, right? Whereas you can run, we ran that nice little step up there with the baseline pin, and we had PJ wide open in the corner. He misses it. Well, that's 0 points. But this team has the ability, they'll sputter around, they'll move it, maybe we won't get any, and then all of a sudden, wow, right? Like we'll hit a 3. In that case, we hit a 2 right there, but. That was one of those plays. He just kind of stayed with it, stayed on 2, didn't get knocked off his balance, stepped through, and he got it to go. But then the plays late, I thought we had that stretch was critical. I thought they had the momentum there. We 6-balled them. We hit a 3. We got to stop. We hit a 3. They called the timeout. I thought that was a critical stretch. But this team just keeps ringing the bell. It's really impressive to see. And I think it's just because it is as corny as it may sound. I think it's just because how much they care about one another. Success usually people think you avoid success because of obstacles. Most of the time you miss success because you're chasing a lesser goal, right? Like and that's all over sports right now, right? We're chasing less. Like the mission isn't what the mission's always been, right? You can have a lot of teams. You can have very few. You can have a lot of people wearing the same jersey, very few teams. And I think this team is just right now. And hey, look, we'll take a loss at some point, and then we're going to have to respond. But so far, what this group's doing, because of how much they care about one another, you can see the mission's clear. Like, hey, what do we got to go do to win a game? And Chad, one of our associate coach, he texted me last night. He said, this team they don't practice poorly. Like they just practice well. And I mean, last night, if you'd have been in here, it was cold. You thought it was cold in here tonight. You should have been here last night. And these guys are flying around it was 75 minutes of just a war out there. And they just keep getting better.
Not to harp on the same thing, but defensively, I think Caleb Banks was 11 of 19 from 3 coming in, and I don't think he shot a 3, and he only ends up with 6 points. Can you just talk about the defensive performance on that?
Yeah, our staff is functioning at such a high level right now, and Kyle Marshall had the scout on this game. And the way they're working with one another, and Chad's making a lot of those defensive decisions, but how information's flowing and the game plan meetings, how they're going. They just put together a heck of a plan. And, at the end of the day, being able to watch our game last year, totally different team, but similar concepts, and then watching the 3 games this year, I sometimes you go into games and you're like, all right, I think the plan's right, but hey, what's the contingency? And if it doesn't go well, like it's kind of what we did Monday night. Like we had a plan, like hey, let's be aggressive. It wasn't working, so we kind of dialed it back a little bit, and then basically, we adjusted. Going into the night, based on the plan that they had, it was with the staff putting that plan together, of getting to shooters, making sure that we're there on catches. Play the ball screen 2-on-2. I thought our guys just did a great job of really being able to focus in on that. And, you watch the film, they're ball screening, they're rolling, guys are tagging, and on catches, they're letting it go. And I think that's what Ron's teams have always done a great job of. Like, they play with a ton of confidence. And so, even last year at their place, you're watching that game, and, we're there, and they're just kind of looking at us, shooting it, and they play like that. And so, we wanted to be able to arrive correctly, and take away shot on catch, and then pop back and guard the ball and make sure we had it gapped, around it. And I thought for the most part our guys did a good job of that.
Coach, so far it seems like this season, going into tonight, you really shot the lights out seemingly every game. I might be wrong on one of those, but you shoot 37.9% tonight, and you find a way to beat a Tulane by 8. And I was looking, you made 22 shots, but you get 19 assists, and nobody had more than 3. So that kind of speaks to the movement was still there, even though you had an off shooting night for this team. So based on what we've seen so far, and you still find a way to beat a Tulane. So that's got to be a good feeling.
I tell you what, Scott, if 13 for 36 is off, we're going to win a lot of games. That's just the reality of it. That's on the high side of the numbers. You got to anything over 34. Last year was our first team not to shoot 34.1% from 3 as a team. And, I think it's one of those things where if you can go 36, then you do the math, right? Like the PPP on that's going to be high enough to where it's like at halftime. Like at halftime, we're 7 for 21, okay, 33.3. All right, we're right there at the water line. Problem is we're 4 for 10 from 2. Hey, we got to be tough around the basket, but like in terms of the volume, look, this team's going to shoot a lot of threes, and fortunately, I guess with the way the Celtics are playing, I don't have to justify how many we're letting go, because I think people are seeing that, let it fly, right? Like, can you go over a certain points per possession on that three? Then, you know how you die by the three? You die by the three by shooting under that. It don't matter how many you shoot, but if you're over that, go shoot as many as you need to. If we're 36% from three and you can shoot all threes and every single shot's a three, you're going to beat a bunch of people. But you got to be able to go 36% on high volume. And that's what this team has the ability to do, right? 36 is a lot, and for us, we probably, you look back on my career, usually it's about 50% of our shots are going to come from three. But we gotta make a percentage, and that comes on the quality of it, right? And going back to our offseason study from last year, hey, listen, it wasn't all bad. We won 17 games, but there was a clear difference in our wins and our losses. 17 wins, 19 assists, 36% from three. Okay, 16 losses, 13 assists, 29% from three. Okay, now you could argue chicken or egg on it, but the reason we're 36% is because that ball's moving, right? That ball's not sticking. And since that ball's moving, we're getting those guys in rotations and we're getting them scrambling, and then it's finding shooters. And a lot of those shots tonight were pretty. Especially in the first half. A lot of those shots were wide open, and but you got to get the ball movement to be able to generate that.
One of the things I asked TJ about was, I think you guys had 7 turnovers at halftime and then none in the second half. Just talk about taking care of the basketballs. That's been one of the things I think in the first 3 games, if you look at it, would be kind of the downsides of things. But you guys did a nice job of taking care of. Is that something you guys have been working on, in practice?
Yes. It's, if you want to lose games, take bad shots and turn the ball over, and you'll start losing them quick. And I think this team has the ability to make shots. I think this team has the ability to get stops. So far, we're turning the ball over too much and we're fouling too much. And we've got to be able, and that's been the whole message the last 48 hours, disciplined aggression, right? We don't want undisciplined aggression. That's going to lose you games. And, Chad Morris, the old offensive coordinator at Clemson, I saw this and I've kind of stayed with it. And it's as a coach, you say, hey, quit turning the ball over. Chad Morris used to have a thing when he was OC. He would say, hey, it's not about the turnover. It's about, are you putting the ball in jeopardy? So it's more process. Hey, we can say we want less turnovers, but are we doing anything to change the process of what's creating the turnover? And so we've really had to narrow in and practice of hey, not did you turn it over, did you put the ball in jeopardy? Did you leave your feet, right? Did you launch, okay? You look at the turnovers in the Jacksonville game, right? We're leaving our feet, we're launching one-handed passes, playing hurried, we've got to quit putting the ball in jeopardy. Just hit the open guy, right? Hey, just hit the open guy, and we can do it. We got plenty of handlers out there. We got smart guys. They did a good job in the matchup of really trying to increase their pressure on the ball, especially we're getting into the elbow early, and I thought they really ramped up their pressure a little bit, and they made us cough it up a few times. But in the second half, I thought we did a much better job. My fault. I had a couple long sets on in the first half. And I thought I had to kind of get them into some quicker entries, in the second half, and I thought that helped, keeping the ball out of jeopardy a little bit.
It's my final question. I just wanted to ask you about, Davis had a tough deal against these guys last year. I know it's totally different teams, but, Davis had that tough deal at the end last year down there and should never came to that. But for him to play like he did tonight, against the same team, it's probably got to be a good feeling for all involved.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about it. I think I made one little joke about it yesterday in film. That was a hard night for all of us. That was, none of them will ever hurt as bad as the buzzer beater, but that's probably number 2. And I think when you go back and watch the game unemotionally this week, we lost that game because of turnovers. It was crazy now. We threw that ball everywhere. And, Davis, you can talk about the foul, but what was neat about the game was in rewatching it, we're not in that position for him to foul if it's not for Davis, because he got the offensive rebound, right? He made some big plays defensively and offensively in that game. And, you don't go back and say, well, we get the and one and we're up 2. but we get straight line driven and they shoot a layup, right? You don't talk about that play. You talk about, oh, we fouled a 3-point shooter, and it's one of those things you just got to move on. Like you just got to have a. And I'll say this about Davis. We've had the off season. It was a culture reboot, and that's what we kept calling it. Like, hey, it's not like we're not that far off. But we got to reboot this thing. Like we got to get our culture back. And he's been as much a part of that as anybody in our program. And the other night, we had him slotted to play more minutes. And because of Chuck playing well and Tyrese playing well, his minutes dropped. And, man, you didn't see a change in his expression. He wasn't pouting. That guy was fired up that we won that game. He didn't practice any different the last couple of days. And you know what? Tonight was his night. And I couldn't be more proud of how, he hasn't allowed himself to kind of get in, oh, man, woe was me. I wish I was like. He's just kind of stayed like ingrained in the team and getting better and working hard. And he's practiced well. I mean, he's practiced well and he's played well. And we thought he needed to have a good night tonight because he did some stuff last year, like versus the zone. Of being able to make some decisions and be able to handle. And then he just finds the ball. And he's somebody that's going to continue to help us. And I got to figure it out with minutes. Fortunately, most games we haven't had a full deck yet. But eventually, we're going to have a full deck, and, it's going to come down to whose night is it. And some guys are going to play consistent minutes, and then some guys are going to be based on the matchup. And, we've got to keep having no egos, and we got to keep the mission. And as long as we do that, this team's going to continue to have some fun.
Final question I had is just talk about the opportunity coming up to take, your brand into a different part of Greenville and what that does for recruiting. I know you just signed 5 guys that are, really talented. Just talk about that and how, one of the unique byproducts of having Timmons fixed or $40 million upgrade is being able to do what you're going to do this next game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we knew this transition was going to take place, and, after the buzzer beater, the line that we used with our program was stepping stone or stumbling block. And, I started hearing kind of the grumbling a little bit of, well, where are we going to practice? Where are we going to play? What do we got to do this? When are we going to shoot? And the language became at that point like, hey, this is opportunity, not obstacle. And, like, it's going to be really critical which one of these two, how we operate this, right? This has got to be an opportunity, okay? First of all, they're putting $40 million in our arena, okay? And it was neat. We were talking about it the other night, and one of the players told me, I think it was Ben. Ben was like, Coach, it just hadn't been that bad. Like, it's gone by quicker than we thought. It hasn't been that bad. And that's a credit to the staff. That's a credit to our administration and Jason and everybody, and also Red Lister. Okay, like you talk about a behind-the-scenes rock star right now that's getting a lot of stuff done. I mean, getting all that stuff and all the logistics handled, to come down here last night, practice, today, like we have film in Timmons. We walk over to football. We do walk through upstairs in the suite. Then we eat at football. And then we come over here and we tape. And then we drive the bus down here. Hey, man, go play ball. And I think the opportunity is to increase the fan base, right, to expose our program to downtown Greenville. And then all of a sudden they say, hey, you know what, like this is worth going to campus to watch games next year. And, now we get to play in the Well. There were some dates that, didn't match up. And William Brown's a dear friend. He's also, he bleeds purple, huge Furman guy, and he started Legacy Charter. And, I just told him, I said, hey, let's play a game in here. I love that gym. I absolutely, Hoosier feel a little bit. Like when I go over there to recruit, I always love going over there. And he's like, let's do it. And so we've been doing, our players go over there every week, and we do a reading program, at Legacy. And this is an opportunity for us to go into the community and to play a game on their court. And, again, just trying to get into different parts of Greenville. And so I encourage you. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a unique experience. We're going to practice there on Sunday and, go out there and continue to try to find ways to win a game. But, yeah, it's anytime we can connect what we do with an opportunity for outreach and to impact the community, I think it's really important for our guys to experience that. And this should be a neat little opportunity on Wednesday night. All right. Thank you all.